I'm Dennis Anderson, and here's what's coming up on Almanac North. The City of Duluth has announced major budget cuts and layoffs as the COVID-19 pandemic takes a toll on city finances. Recovery Alliance Duluth has taken its peer-to-peer recovery efforts online during the pandemic. We will talk with the organization's founders. And disability rights activist Gaelynn Lee talks about her fear of healthcare discrimination during the pandemic. These stories coming your way next on Almanac North. Well, hello again and welcome to Almanac North. Thank you very much for watching. Julie Zenner is off this week as she and I alternate hosting the program during the pandemic. This week's show was recorded on Thursday afternoon and includes pre-recorded interviews. COVID-19 has taken a tremendous toll on the world's economy as businesses large and small struggle with government-ordered closings and stay-at-home orders. That economic pain is also being felt in government coffers. This week, the City of Duluth announced major budget cuts and laid off nearly 50 full-time staff and another 45 seasonal or temporary employees. Almanac North producer Greg Grell talked with Mayor Emily Larson about the devastating effects of the pandemic.
It is impacting every aspect of what we do. A very large portion of our municipal budget relies on sales tax and property tax. And then, lots of other permitting and other aspects of the budget. So we have been monitoring this very closely. Everything that is happening now, we have been tracking, we have been expecting, we have been forecasting. And we do think that the cost to the City of Duluth could be very close to $25 million. Which is a lot. That is, $93 million is our overall general fund budget. So that kind of gives you a context. $25 million is devastating. And if that's the case, and I say if because at this point, we are not receiving any support from the federal government to fill in that budget gap. We are getting support from the state and federal government to pay for COVID-related purchases or things that we need. But in terms of actual budget gaps, we're not getting support for that. So it is very likely we will be solving that on our own as a city, and we will make the decisions we need to do that.
Now, is it even possible to save that much money in a year? 25 million seems like an awful big hill to climb.
Oh, it's a huge mountain to climb. So we have the pairing of this, global pandemic, which is really the largest health crisis we've had since the 1918 flu and the largest economic crisis we've had since the Great Depression. So the pairing of it is very complex and it hits right in the gut, in the core. The series of decisions we're making now around staffing, around programs, around investments is really intended to, stop the bleeding as much as we possibly can. And then also position us to have a path out of this, because we do think that the budget impact will be not just for this year, but some of what we rely on comes in only a few times a year. Property tax comes in twice a year. So we know that some of that impact will also be next year. We know that sales tax for now has really dropped. And we do know it will climb back up. We do know that people will return to Duluth when it's time to just remember who they are and to vacation and have that day trip and something affordable that's close to home. So I have a lot of confidence in that. But I can't bank and plan and staff just on a gut. I need to go with the numbers that are in front of us.
So talk about some of the cuts that you announced on Monday, golf courses, lifeguards, things like that, some of the specific things that are going to happen.
Yeah, on Monday we made a series of announcements. Some of them are really exciting. We still have a streets program. It will be very robust. We are going to cover way more mileage than we have I don't remember when we've gotten to 16 miles. That is because we started collecting sales tax at the end of last year. October 1st is when our dedicated sales tax started coming in, and it's because we have dedicated and set aside money only for streets that can only be used for streets. We announced curbside library pickup, which is really exciting for people to be able to have access to materials, as we have 4,500 public school students home, other non-public school students home, and then thousands of people who are now unemployed who need resources. And then we made some really difficult announcements as well. We talked about the budget. We did announce that there will be a delay of openings for the zoo and for the beach house and other really fun activities until at least July 1st. Although that is, contingent on lots of other things happening. We did announce that we are not opening Leicester Golf Course. We did announce that we're opening Enger 2 weeks earlier to try to help people get in there and be able to enjoy that. These are decisions that pair both the public health realities with the economic realities, because we need to be funding a very lean set of services at this time. And what's hard about that is when people are struggling, when people are relying on the city for basic core services, we don't have a lot of options. You can't go somewhere else to get your water. You can't shop around to see what the best deal is for your library or your police. We just provide those. And so there are really difficult decisions around that, and yet very clear decisions, because there aren't a lot of options we have. We're going to make the right decisions. We're going to make them in a timely manner, and we will find a path and create the path to get out of this.
Now, referring to Leicester Park Golf Course, I know there's been discussion over the last couple of years about the future of that golf course. Some folks that use Leicester Park are concerned that this is the first step towards permanent closure. Can you just react to that statement?
Yeah, I can react to the statement in the sense that this is the decision that needs to be made at this time. And it could very well be a decision that leads towards closure. But the intent is not to fast track anything. The intent is to be very clear, to lead with the information that we have, and to also be very honest and transparent with people what our issues and challenges are. So I think it's a very, clear way to provide that information to the public. We have lots of recreation that is about to be impacted. We have, sports that aren't happening in the spring for families. We have playgrounds that are closed across the city. We have, tennis nets down. So it's like we're all going to have to sacrifice as a part of this.
Now, we're recording this interview on Wednesday afternoon, and later today, DETA is going to be considering an emergency support plan for small businesses. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that plan would work?
Yeah, I'm so excited about that. So a lot can happen. It is only Wednesday. A lot could happen between now and Friday. We have done I'm so proud of our team, because while we're all working home and managing all the stress and change that happens with that, we're also being really innovative and thinking far ahead. So we know our businesses are hurting. I am really happy that the federal bills, while they haven't included municipalities, they have been really thoughtful about businesses and unemployed job seekers. And so we wanted to pair the opportunities that are out there through the SBA loans and the Paycheck Protection Program with tools that are available through the 1200 Fund FAST grants, and then tools that will be approved and available via DETA. They're very intentional. They are meant to not duplicate what the government's already doing. We wanted to provide supplemental and easy kind of last money in and first money in, which is, I think, what the city can sometimes do really, really well. We do not need to meet the same metrics that shareholders do and bigger corporations have to for those investments. So I do know that we announced the FAST grant program on Monday. It's Wednesday at like 1 p.m. and we already have 200 applications for that. So the need is there. I'm proud that we're stepping into it. People who have questions can just look at the website. It's really important to me. I truly understand that COVID is impacting your business, your life, your family, your worries, your anxiety, your health, all of it. And so we are doing everything we can to be that strong and supportive partner that businesses need to rely on right now.
Now, is there going to be a cap on that, or how will businesses apply, and how, will everybody that applies get some money, or how will that work?
We will not be able to do everything. That's very clear. That's one of the things that pandemics make clear, is that they have their own path, and we don't have a way to control all of that. I know, based on the need that we're seeing, we will not be able to help everybody. That's going to be really difficult, because people pour their entire life and their whole story into owning a business. But people can find all of that information. Really, the best place to go, our website is awesome right now. I just went in and looked at it. It's very clear. All of our announcements, whether it's about the cleanup on Saturday, whether it's about unemployment insurance, the FAST grants, what's happening with DETA, Rebuild Duluth, it's all really right on that front page.
Well, Mayor Emily Larson, City of Duluth, thanks very much for your time today.
Thank you so much. Hang in there and be well.
The effects of the COVID-19 pandemic go beyond the obvious health and economic concerns. It also has changed the way many organizations are doing their work. Recovery Alliance Duluth is adapting by providing support online to people recovering from substance abuse. Here to tell us more is Beth Elstead, Executive Director of Recovery Alliance Duluth, and Julie Venna is the Peer Recovery Community Coordinator for the Recovery Alliance. Welcome to both of you. And Beth, you and Julie founded this organization. Tell us what it is you do.
Thanks, Jenny. So Recovery Alliance Duluth is a recovery community organization. So we are really a neutral organization that represents the recovery community, and we work with people who are seeking recovery. Maybe they are in recovery and need some extra support. We provide support peer-to-peer. So one-on-one with folks. We use our shared experience to provide recovery support throughout the continuum. We provide education and awareness and work to take away the stigma that is associated with substance use disorder.
And I understand, Julie, that both of you are actually in recovery, have been for a number of years. How does that assist you in running this organization?
Oh, absolutely. Beth and I combined together, we have about 33, 34 years of recovery. It's the foundational component of what we do and how the organization was birthed. Like Beth said, we really focus on the peer-to-peer, peer-driven support. So our experience and our knowledge of recovery and how that unfolds and how that continuum surfaces through your life, that is the basis of what we do.
Were you in recovery together?
Yeah, we've been in recovery together for about 10 years.
And how has that helped you?
Well, so that's how this works. So I'm a person in long-term recovery. I've been in recovery of alcoholism for 23 and a half years. And I met Julie when she first came into recovery. And through my son, my oldest son, who is also in recovery, I have two adult children. I guess that's what I'll say. Brian, we lost him to suicide about 6.5 years ago when he was in recovery. That's how I met Julie. So we support each other. We use our experiences to support each other. And, just when you connect with somebody who has a similar experience to you, I think about my son losing him to suicide, and I can talk to somebody who's lost their child in a way that I can't talk to somebody else. It's the same for us in recovery.
Now, due to COVID-19, you have moved to the internet. Has that helped or hindered?
Denny, I get excited about it. I think it has absolutely helped. Yeah. I think it can take recovery to the next level. I think what sometimes people look at as a barrier is that there are only meetings at certain times, there are only activities at certain times. Now that everything is virtual, you can talk and have a conversation with somebody 24/7, 365 across the country. I log on to meetings in Switzerland. Yeah. I log on to meetings in Australia. So I personally think that it's showing people in recovery that we can find recovery anywhere, anytime.
So Beth, what kind of services then do you provide?
So we provide recovery support through the peer-to-peer model, and we provide telephone support. We will do virtual Zoom meetings with folks. We have a HIPAA-approved video virtual component that we can do one-on-one peer recovery support through as well. We have done a peer recovery specialist training before COVID, where we had folks come in and we did a 46-hour training to train people how to do this service. And we really want to build this recovery community.
I would think peer recovery is probably the best way to go.
I definitely think so. Peer recovery is a movement right now in recovery, for sure. It is a certified service that is recognized as a reimbursable service. It is an employment avenue for people in recovery to become certified peer recovery specialists.
Can you give us some idea of the scope of substance abuse here in the Northland?
Oh my gosh. It's at a crisis level. We talk about the opioid epidemic,
Sure.
but still more folks are dying from alcohol. People are losing people every day that they love to substance use disorder overdose. And so the challenge and the scope is significant. And COVID has definitely challenged us in ways, but we are nimble and we're able to reach people. And so as much sadness and struggles, we have hope and resilience, and there are really good things happening in our community with the recovery.
So what do you want people to know, or viewers to know, about substance abusers?
I think that, we're all people.
We all come from families.
Absolutely. We all come from all walks of life, and we're just people that have maybe made some bad choices and had some bad experiences and need to find our way. And we find our way through new experiences and new hopeful connections with people. And I think that's really exciting, and that's something that we definitely can provide.
What leads an abuser to seek help?
I think that's individualized. I really do. I feel like people need to be wherever they are in their life. There needs to be some sort of willingness for them, or some sort of connection that they're looking for.
Yeah, I think connection.
Absolutely.
Is key. Yeah. And the other thing I just want to mention is so I'm a person in recovery, so we often talk about people that they're a substance abuser. What we really try to reinforce is how we're talking to people.
Yeah.
So I'm a person in recovery, a person who you might say is a substance abuser,
Sure.
is a person experiencing substance use. So it separates the person and the health issue.
So in about 15 seconds, how can people get a hold of you?
Oh my gosh. We have a phone number, 218-576-6005. We can be reached at our website, www.recoveryallianceduluth.org. Facebook, Julie's on Facebook, Instagram, and we are known throughout the community.
Good. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
And thank you both for being here.
Thanks for having
you.
us.
You bet. Weeks now, we've been taking the advice of health and government officials to slow the spread of coronavirus. The idea is to flatten the curve of the epidemic and avoid overwhelming our healthcare system with too many ill people. In our country, we expect the best care possible if we do get sick, but people in the disabled community are not certain that will happen for them. We talked with Duluth musician and disability rights activist Gaelynn Lee about her concerns.
This is going to be a very interesting and probably pretty definitive time for disability in America. We have the ADA was passed 30 years ago, and in the Affordable Care Act, there's like a non-discrimination clause that includes disability, but already hospitals are rolling out like policies for treatment rationing that don't go well for disabled people, and it's not legal. Like I wrote a complaint, and so did a lot of other people, to the Office of Civil Rights, the Health and Human Services Office of Civil Rights, saying like, this is a protected class. And although, yes, people with disabilities who get it are going to be more at risk anyways, you can't preemptively say, oh, you have a disability, so you're not going to get a ventilator. And that's how some of those policies were actually reading. I mean, it was like, I was like, I'm never going to the hospital during this whole thing. And I think that the thing that I am realizing is that disability needs to be even more than before part of the discussion, because you can't say, oh, well, it's a pandemic. When we get back to normal, we'll recognize your civil rights, but not right now. Like that is not going to help now for sure, and it's not going to help in the future, because we can't be starting back farther than where we already were when this is all over. You know what I mean? And I mean, if you really are treatment rationing and people with disabilities really aren't getting an equal chance at care, I mean, I'm not saying that they have to be prioritized above, but like, if we're like, there's just many ways to be approaching it, and having disability be an automatic, like, no ventilator, back of the line, ventilator. That's just not like, if we all have equal value, that's just not how you can do that. You can't do that for race. You can't do that for gender. I really feel like you can't do that for disability either. And it's a misunderstood thing. Like, it just kind of highlighted, I guess, what I'm saying is the fact that people were willing to write policies like that, like, makes me realize that, yes, we have not changed the public view of disability enough to understand why that's not okay. It might, like, there is a lot of work left, which you could kind of tell, but it comes out in very sharp relief in a time where people feel their own resources are threatened. So why do I have to support this person who's not as productive as me? Or, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of psychology behind that kind of thinking. And so the disability rights piece of it, the scary part for me, or like the frustrating part, is I think it's going to be harder to bust through the narrative now, because it is a pandemic and there's a lot of stuff we don't know, and people are dealing with all of their own issues. So like, taking on this additional issue, how do you rally the troops to like care about this right now? You know what I mean? But it's really important, because if we don't, disability rights are going to be super negatively impacted, I think. I'm personally not immunocompromised, but I do have small lungs. But I know that in a time of plenty, if that's how a doctor is going to respond, and obviously not every doctor would, but they're out there for sure, where they don't value disabled lives in the same regard. And it's psychological, and it's through their training. Like, there's many layers of why this happens. But if that's like not a pandemic, and I go in there during a pandemic, like, I'm pretty sure I would be doomed. Like, I just don't even know how I wouldn't be. You know what I mean? Like, the writing is definitely on the wall for me, and it's not just about me, because it's like a lot of people I care about are, immunocompromised or have different disabilities, and some of them are even more like susceptible than me. But still, I feel like there's got to be a way to do, like, I don't know, at some point, if ever, like, you kind of like look at who has a chance of surviving, not with disability in the like equation, but literally like, this is this patient, this is their symptoms, and then doing like a lottery or something. There has to be a way that doesn't straight up just take you out of the running, because if I was given a ventilator, I would probably live through something like this, or like I would have as much of a chance as you would. You know what I'm saying? But I will not be viewed that way in a hospital setting right now. Obviously, all inequality is becoming really obvious right now, right? So I'm not saying disability is more important or even that different, I guess, except for that there has not traditionally been a platform where people learn about it at all. So it's almost like it doesn't exist to people. And that is a problem. We know about wealth inequality because people are talking about it. It doesn't mean we've done a good job of dealing with it, but at least we know it's an issue. But so many people don't actually even know, even progressive people. They're like, oh, I never thought of that before. And you're like, well, that's because you never had a chance to learn about it, So places like PBS or like the less commercialized, I would challenge them to think about how to cover disability issues in a meaningful way right now, because it's not going to happen at CNN, and if it is, it's going to be told in the wrong way, like the sensationalized way, instead of like, this is a civil rights issue. And so that would be a hope of mine, that other people besides just like the activists themselves pick up these issues and help get the word out to the masses, because I think that's pretty important.
Is our battle has been won.
If you are not feeling well, Essentia Health and St. Luke's both have hotlines they are answering 24 hours a day to answer your health questions. Take advantage of those and other online resources like the Minnesota Department of Health and Wisconsin Department of Health Services websites. And you can follow Almanac North on our social media sites while you're staying home to defeat the virus. You'll find us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, and visit the WDSE website for program updates and more information about special COVID-19 programming here at the station. Thanks to our guests and the crew here at Almanac North. I'm Dennis Anderson. Stay healthy. Good night, everybody, and be kind.